This is a quick review of a Parker Jotter fountain pen. This is the box that the pen comes in, a plain recycled paper, inside of which you'll find a glossier Parker logo printed sleeve. So if you ever want to give it as a gift, you could just take the paper, the outside sleeve out and toss that out. Once you open the inside further, you'll find a instruction manual. And if you were to look through the print is pretty tiny. You almost need a not a microscope, or at least a magnifying glass to read this. But at least there's a positive side. There's actually a pictorial that tells you what to do if you've never used a fountain pen before. And within that there is the pen itself and a cartridge of ink which comes with it. I personally don't like using cartridges since you gotta keep buying and tossing that plastic out, so I prefer to use a converter, which I had to buy separately. The converter itself does hold less ink than the cartridge, but at least the ink bottle is recyclable. If you look at it, the reason I bought this was one of my favorite is a Jotter pen, a ballpoint pen, and you can notice it's very similar. The fountain pen and the Jotter ballpoint, about pretty much the same size. To compare, here is Lamy Safari fountain pen, which is thicker, and Parker Jotter is slimmer and a little shorter. Next to that, this is the Pilot Metropolitan, which is also slightly thicker, about the same size, I would say, height-wise. And a TWSBI, which holds the maximum amount of ink, and it's quite small compared to that one. Right, excuse my camera stand in the bottom there. Going to use a cartridge that came with the pen so as to get a better flow of ink. Also, if I probably try to use another ink that does not go well with the pen, I might just not have it write well or screw up how it's designed for. So if you just take the back off, put the cartridge in, and slide the back in again. This one I think you have to press the cartridge in a little bit sturdier. Some pens you can just put the cartridge in and twist the back in and it'll kind of lock in there. However, I guess this one you have to press in a little more. Let's give it a little bit of shake. And let's see. That writes pretty smooth. The ink flows out really well and the color is pretty good with the cartridge that comes in. I believe this is more of a blue-black ink that Parker generally makes. If you continue writing, it's pretty smooth. The nib itself is a medium tip. You can't see it on the top. However, if you flip it over, right underneath is where it says with the size of the nib there, medium. It's pretty good size. It doesn't come out very thick, and I'm not using a very fancy paper. It's just a recycled printer paper. I don't have money for all this fancy Rhodia and so on, and I usually write on regular printer paper or a notebook paper, and this doesn't seem to bleed out much. Very little, is barely noticeable. Okay, pretty smooth still. No skipping. Some more, flows very well. Writes very smooth for the price of this pen. It's not something that costs a lot. I would say it's in the less than a $30 range if you get the converter with it. The converter doesn't come with it. If I try to write fast, like these lines, writes very well, does not skip. It dries very quickly as well. And the back is good. Barely any bleed through. Of course, you're going to get a little bit. So I definitely recommend this pen. The only concern I have with this is the thickness of it. If you have large hands, it might be slightly difficult. For some reason, as I write more and more, I feel like the thinner pens tend to make my hand hurt if I write longer compared to thicker pen like TWSBI and the Lamy Safari series. However, this pen is very smooth, writes very well.